Hello, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk and from unboxes.com. Here I am looking at the T-Mobile MyTouch 4G slide. This is a US only handset on the T-Mobile network in the USA. But we're going to have a little look at the handset before we do a review. Bear in mind we won't be able to test the 4G features, but we will be able to play with everything else and have a look at what this handset can offer, and what our friends across the pond actually get from some of the carriers. So inside the box we have the start guide, which is printed in colour, which is great. It means it's a little bit easier to follow things, and it's all about getting started. Recycling program. There's the terms and conditions for the limited warranty. And then I have a T-Mobile 4G SIM card. Also in the box we have a USB to micro USB sync charge cable, and last of all we have a USB style charger, US 2-pin plug on one end, and then the USB connector on the other end, standard USB. So not much in the box in the way of accessories. I believe this is full retail, so it's surprising perhaps not to see a wired headset included, but that's not there. So let's take a look at the handset. We'll peel off the cover here so it's a little bit easier to see. So on the front we have immediately obvious a forward-facing camera, reasonably large and unusually designed speaker, and then on the other side of that, which is a little bit hard to make out, you might just see them there, are the sensors, ambient light and proximity sensors there. The screen is a SLCD screen, capacitive, 480 by 800 pixels, and it's 3.7 inch, so that's a decent sized screen, and also good having the Super LCD. Underneath you have the home, menu, back, and Google. Looks like a little G, so like basically the search button, and underneath that is a push button, which also looks like it will be optical trackpad. We'll look at that again in a second. On the left hand side we have an up and down volume control and the micro USB connector for, say, sync and charge. On the bottom, little hole which is the microphone, and then another couple of holes there which allows us to connect a phone charm or a lanyard. And then up on the right hand side, it's pretty neat, there's just one button there which is a dedicated camera button, and then swinging around to the top we have a 3.5mm headphone connector for using a wired headset, or indeed your own 3.5mm headphone jack equipped headphones. Then the power button. Then on the back we have an 8-megapixel autofocus camera. You'll notice it has a little interesting greeny ring around it, which is kind of cool, just makes it a little bit more visually interesting. Then we have a dual LED flash, little hole there, which a little grill which is for the main loudspeaker. Back is covered in this sort of textured finish, textured paint, which is fairly common among the HTC handsets. Back pops off like so. Battery has film around it so that when it's shipping it doesn't actually power up, but we can pop the battery in a second. Battery capacity is 1520 mAh, so that's quite a reasonable capacity. We have the space here for the SIM card and a micro SD HD memory card. Comes with an 8GB included, which is pretty cool. Will support up to 32GB, which again is, I guess that's pretty much standard these days, but it will support up to 32GB. The other thing about this, hence the slide name, is that we do have a QWERTY keyboard. It doesn't appear to tilt, it doesn't tilt, so it's just a slider rather than a tilt or an angled sort of arrangement. But then we have 4 rows of keys, and the numeric keys aren't dedicated. It's a similar keyboard to some of the other HTC slide devices, but I wouldn't say on first impression it doesn't seem quite as good. We've got a couple of LEDs for the caps lock and alt indicators, and the keys themselves are pretty tactile, so that's quite good. So let me just power up, and while we wait for that to come on, there we go. Run down the rest of the specification. Quad band for GSM and dual band for HSDPA, 1700 and 2100 bands. because this is actually a US device. 122mm from top to bottom, 68mm wide, and 14mm thick. A little bit chunkier than your average handset at the moment, but that is because, well, no small amount due to the fact that it's got the sliding keyboard mechanism. 184 grams as well. Again, that's pretty heavy. It's certainly on the upper end of comfortable, I would say, but also I have to take into account the keyboard mechanism in sort of the added weight. I've already mentioned the Super LCD display, 480 by 800 pixels, 3.7 inch. We've got HTC Sense 3.0 on here, which will be evident again in just a moment when we actually come to play with it. 4 gig of internal storage, 768 megs of RAM, Bluetooth 3.0 with A2DP and EDR support. Wi-Fi supporting 802.11b, G and N standards. The 8 megapixel camera on the back is capable of HD video recording. We've got Android OS 2.3, and probably sort of the trump card, I guess, on this is the dual core 1.2 gigahertz processor. It's a dual core Snapdragon processor. And as I already mentioned, because we do have that bit more power and we've got an 8 megapixel camera, we can actually record full HD 1080p videos as well. We've got a built-in FM radio and kind of all the other bits and pieces that you come to expect really in terms of the software load and everything else, and Bluetooth and GPS. So let's take a quick look. We've got the unlock ring, which we've seen on some of the other HTC devices of late, so indicating that we have the latest version of Sense. So we'll go ahead and unlock. It's going to welcome us to our new phone. So we're going to skip through these bits here and we'll take a look. We've got an intro video. That's kind of cool. And that's showing us that there seems to be a white one. Sweep shot for panoramic pictures. First shot. HDR. Genius button, so that's what that button is there. So it's kind of like a voice recognition button. So obviously aiming quite obviously at the camera features and the video camera there in that intro. So we'll skip through here. We'll allow all of the things for location. We'll agree to using my location. There we go, and we're going to come up initially with a theme chooser. That's pretty cool. So we have a series of themes that we can select, and we'll just pick that nice bright yellow one. That looks quite cool. So that's an unusual thing. Haven't seen that before with an HTC handset. Branded obviously as T-Mobile MyTouch 4G Slide, but it is made by HTC. We can set up accounts through here. So we've got Google email accounts, social networks, and video chat to set up. We're going to skip those just for the moment. Go straight into the UI. So you can see it's applied my theme that I selected, which is kind of retro, almost like a fabric texture to that. I've got the Google search bar at the top with audio or voice search button to the side. Underneath we have the phone button, message, internet, people, and basically the launcher in the corner. Drop down at the top is already telling me that I need to set my current time, and we've got quick settings here for turning on and off Wi-Fi hotspot, your mobile networks, Bluetooth, GPS, and getting into the full settings menu, which I'm going to go and do. I'm going to turn Wi-Fi on, and I'm going to go into the Wi-Fi settings. I'm going to connect to a Wi-Fi network. So we've got an on-screen QWERTY keyboard which has swipe. So swipe, for those that you haven't seen it before, is a pretty cool way of doing text entry. Allows you to actually enter words and full sentences, in fact, word by word or word at a time, but without taking your finger off. So rather than tapping away at the keys, you start with your finger on the first button and you move your finger across without taking off all the letters of the word that you want to type. And then when you release your finger, the word appears on the screen. I'll show you that in a moment. I can't do that obviously while I'm trying to enter the passkey, so I'm going to do that. And there we are, connecting to the Wi-Fi network, and that was very quick. We've already connected. Very cool. So this button at the bottom, I mentioned when I started up, it looked like an optical trackpad, certainly is. So it allows us to scroll up and down with that. But we'll skip back out to go to home. Home screen has a number of pages. So in the middle is where we started. Then we have market maps, mail and calendar on the other one. We then have weather and set up your smartphone, coming back the other way. We have Wi-Fi calling, brightness, GPS and Bluetooth. Turn the brightness up to max, shall we? There we go. Let's do one more. There we go, so maximum brightness there. Bluetooth there, my account and settings at the bottom, and then we're back to weather. You can notice the bar along the top. As I'm going around, the bar moves backwards and forwards, indicating which page you're on. Very similar to the other handsets that we've seen from HTC, which tend to be at the bottom. And this is this sort of 3D sort of animation that we've seen on the HTC Sensation and the newer HTC handsets. That's kind of cool. Pinch, so we have the Leap View, and as you can see here, it started off initially with only 5 pages, so they're arranged in this arrangement, so we can see what's running, or indeed what widgets we have on each of those pages. This is like the Leap View, or the overview of what we have on each screen, and which allows us to get through things really quite quickly. Pushing the launch button at the side, you see what's installed. We've got Bejeweled already installed. You can see there is this theming to the icons because it's a T-Mobile handset, and T-Mobile's colour scheme is sort of this magenta. So we've got a magenta theme through some of the icons there, which obviously must be a bit of customization that T-Mobile have built in. So we've got Kids Zone, Mail, Netflix and Phone, and Quick Chat, Video Chat, Telenav, GPS, Wi-Fi calling, and a few other things. T-Mobile TV, which I'm sure will only work in the USA, and it goes through Setup and Task Manager. So there's a few things on there a little bit different to the load that we would expect to see on handsets that are provided here in the UK. But obviously there's quite a bit that's also the same. We'll go and take a look at the web browser. And rather than going there, we're going to go to our site. There we go. Page is loading progress at the top. So it's loading pretty fast. The Super LCD screen looks the business. And we can zoom out so we get the full screen there. There we go. And believe it or not, even at that level of zoom, I can read the text in the articles, albeit that they are quite small. And then I can rotate this way, and that works fine. Double tap, zoom into an area of text, we get reflow so that we can actually read the bodies of text without too much aggravation. Double tap again to zoom back out. 2-finger zooming obviously as well. Browsing experience again is pretty good, but it's kind of standard, kind of what you would expect to see on virtually every Android handset. Again, albeit that it's pretty quick on this one because of the performance. We also have on here Android Market, which we're going to be required to sign in order to get. So we're going to sign into my Google account. Okay, so we're signing in, which didn't take a second really. I'm going to accept the settings, or accept the terms of the agreements. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. It's picked up the fact that I've got an email on my Gmail account as well. So there we go, that's Android Market. I've got my apps here, which will list the applications that I've already purchased through my Gmail or Google account rather. So it should come down. It's actually saying that it's synchronizing at the top there as well. So there's a couple of things to be updated: Google Maps, YouTube, and I've also purchased a ROM manager that I could go and download as well. While I'm in here, I want to search for benchmark tool that we use, which is Quadrant Standard Edition, which is free. We're just going to have a look at that, let that download, and we'll actually run that to benchmark this handset because it does have the dual core processor. That's telling me about a network error, unfortunately. Right, Quadrant is successfully installed. I've got a notification at the top here, which tells us that I've got new mail. Quadrant's installed, and it's still warning me about setting the time. This area here, along this bar, are recently used applications. So that's quite kind of cool. So it means if you use things frequently, you can get into the same thing. And then dropping down, I can go and go into my Gmail account, which is pretty straightforward. So that's kind of cool. So let's look at that Quadrant application I installed. You go ahead and run that, and we'll run a full benchmark. See how long that takes to run. Probably not very long. Obviously, a benchmark like this is only one of the measures of performance of the handset, really. They can vary in day-to-day performance. There we go. Seems to be running reasonably quickly. We're getting up to around 50 frames a second, averaging around 30 to 40, I guess, in doing the benchmark there. And they're also 59 to 60 frames a second in the 3D animation there. And for the DNA string there, around 30 frames a second. So let's get that benchmark result. Our device 1809. It's not as good as I would have expected. I would have expected it to be around or perhaps in excess of around 2000. But sometimes when you run it more than once, actually you get slightly different results as well. So that's your benchmark. We'll run that a couple of times later on when we do the review, so we can actually see how that averages out. Got our YouTube account. So we're going to go ahead and search for my alias on YouTube, which is Leod, L-E-O-D-E-E. So we've got a list of our videos that we've got on YouTube. There are well over 500 now. So let's just pick one and see how that buffers. Seems pretty quick. Well, there's a slight delay here. There we go. So it's buffered reasonably quickly. The sharpness though of the display is pretty amazing.
Hello, this is Matt from
There we go. And as I've commented before, an unboxing video in an unboxing video, pretty cool. So that's your YouTube account, so that's quite good. You've got your weather, which I know a lot of people seem to be fairly obsessed by. It's a rather nice AccuWeather, so fully animated there, as you can see. It's telling me what the weather is right here, and in New York, which is great, Chicago, Los Angeles, and finally Seattle. So that's the weather. Obviously we've taken a look at the internet already. And what else have we got on here? Quick look at the camera, which I guess is right up at the top. Yep, there we go, the camera. And well, we'll use the box to actually take a video, take a quick snapshot. So there we go. You see the little icon in the centre. This is actively picking out and zooming and focusing. It's trying to do face detection, as you can see there, and the autofocus is continuously hunting there. It's found a little found the face there, which is pretty cool. So you just click to actually take a picture. That's pretty good. Reasonably fast, and we can also use a button on top. So reasonably fast at taking pictures. Obviously the autofocus being the limitation there, but I'm really quite close to something, so there we go. Right, so that is a very quick look at the T-Mobile MyTouch 4G slide. We'll have a full review for you over the coming weeks. As I say, we won't be able to test the 4G features, but we'll test everything else that we possibly can with a UK SIM card. In the meantime, if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's twitter.com/TracyandMatt or facebook.com/TracyandMatt.co.uk. Please do get in touch with us, follow us along. Ask us any questions about this, any other handset that we're looking at, indeed anything else sort of tech related. We'll try to answer you and interact with you. We're back soon with some more videos and reviews on TracyandMatt.co.uk, but for now, thanks for watching.